So Typeform is a company based in Barcelona, and really what we believe Typeform creates interfaces, and these interfaces are very engaging and interactive because we believe that the most important interaction on the web is the exchange of information. And the reason why it's important is because nothing happens until people exchange information, right? So if it's a business website or it's a legal website, it doesn't matter. You need someone's data in order to proceed further with that relationship. So we believe that this is the most important interaction on the web, and so we want to make sure that every interaction counts. And you can create forms, you can create surveys, you can create quizzes, you can create a whole bunch of other things that people have thought of. And the end goal is that we want the interaction to feel more like a conversation rather than you just inputting data. And our philosophy is, when you put people first, you get better data. So it's like people first, data second, and take care of the people, and you'll get higher quality data in return. At Typeform, I was their first marketing hire, by the way, and now I'm the director of brand, and my job is to kind of help shape, make sure that we offer the best brand experience, and that means looking at a wide variety of things. And it also means, kind of looking towards the future, like what kind of company do we want to become? And yeah, it's really different from what I used to do, but it's also rewarding and enjoyable in its own way. But I think ultimately you never take out the activist or the the social work out of the social worker, because I'm starting to think, what can we do to impact the community? What can we do beyond just earn a profit and do something else beyond that? And these are conversations we're having now, and these are conversations that I'm having with my CEO right now, and it's really good. So I'm gonna bring that work in no matter what, no matter what I do. Yeah, that was that was something else, because first of all, it's intimidating, right? And I remember them telling me or asking me if I could go, if I could switch from my current client base and work with youth coming out of the juvenile justice system. And they told me everything I was going to be doing. Oh, you're going to go to court. You're going to work with these attorneys. You're going to work with these churches. You're going to do all these different things. And out of all the things they told me, I said, okay, so what do I do in court? Because that was the most intimidating thing. And, I found myself doing unconventional things because I didn't really know how to respond in court. And so sometimes I was going in and somebody was looking at 2 years, and I didn't realize I was supposed to take this person on as a client. I was really only supposed to work with people who could be facing a maximum of 15 to 36 weeks. And so I'm sitting in there and I'm introducing the program. And I'm just thinking about my first experiences, and I'm introducing the program, and I'm nervous because I don't know what the judge wants. I don't know what the prosecutor wants. And I don't know everything that's going on. And I realized that my presentation and, the client, and it wasn't just mine, it was the client's presentation who I had prepared prior. I said, hey, we're getting ready to go to court. This is what you're looking at. And I need to coach you on how to present yourself and that whole thing. But I didn't realize that I had stumbled on to something that was effective. And in a sense, that's where I think not just my storytelling skills, but also my knowledge of psychology and influence and all these other things came into play. But that was just luck, and everything else was just you figure it out as you go. What do these terms mean? What's a disposition? What's what's the first appearance hearing? What are all these different things? And so you're constantly picking up new terminology and new lingo, and then you realize, yeah, there's a pattern here, and you start picking up on those things. Then you're dealing with the parents, and then you're dealing with maybe social workers that you're training, and you're giving them, you're trying to guide them, you're trying to help them understand what's going on. And so to me, there's no user manual for this, and that's one of the big problems. You want people to, whenever they enter any kind of system, it could be banking, it could be finance, it could be housing, it could be um, uh, the criminal justice system. It doesn't matter. There's no manual, and there's no you know uh, language that people can just go to. Like there's nothing that helps people navigate these systems. And to me, that's where the big failure is. Because we're all interacting with these systems all the time, and they all involve some level of legality. Where the housing system has housing laws, and the finance system has finance laws, and all these different things. And how do you know when you're crossing the line and when you're not crossing the line? And when this is going too far, or you're not going far enough. You could ask for more, and that's another thing too that becomes a problem, right? We're not asking for enough. We're not asking for things that are within our purview or within our right. And so we miss out on opportunities that someone who has money or wealth has an army of lawyers can get these responses for. So to me, that's the gross error of our lack of knowledge and lack of understanding on how to navigate systems that are designed this way on purpose, by the way. They're designed this way on purpose. And to me, that's the egregious nature of this. It's like it's for highly educated people, not for somebody who struggled and went to schools that didn't have, I don't know, the same education as the next city over. And to me, that's criminal in some ways.
It is changing now a little bit.
A little bit, slowly. There are changes. I can tell you the evolution, at least from a social work perspective, when we started involving not just community partners, but we also started involving the court system itself. And so we started having meetings with the courts, and those meetings were with judges, and for example, drug court. I don't know if drug court is popular in Europe. I know it is in Portugal. I don't know if it's all over, but in the United States, it was a game changer for a lot of people, because you're able to, what we called wraparound services, like really surround somebody with all the services that they could ever want. And there was a weekly check-in. We wanted to make sure that people were successful. And it helps to set the frame and the context of what you're trying to do. Some people looked at it as, oh, I have to do this or to get out. And then some people realized the bigger context that was involved, like seeing more of the big picture. And, hopefully this helps you. I mean, not only do you get this charge wiped off your record by going through this process, but we also get you in a place where you can start thinking about your choices more, just with more thoughtfulness and more care about your own future. So in some ways, yeah, so I was able to kind of witness these changes that you're talking about, besides some of the innovative stuff that's happening in the UK and maybe around Europe, that I haven't been paying attention to as much. But yeah, I know there's definitely some advances and some evolution in the way that people are approaching this. And she's amazing. And I I I was hoping, after talking to her, that we could kind of take this down from a very conceptual view, and figure out, like, how do we start making changes now? How do we start making differences now? And what was good at the time when I was talking to her, she said that a lot of judges are interested in this. And I mean, it's fair access to justice in the legal system, and everyone should have fair access. And you can't have fair access if you don't know what's going on, right? And I mean, there's a lot of things to improve there. I mean, when you first walk into any type of court system, you don't know what to do. it's not very clear. And so even these like small touch points, which she points out in the article too, these small touch points make a big difference. We don't want people to walk away feeling shamed. And I mean, it's already a terrible experience, especially if you're coming on a first appearance, or if you have to pay a fine for something um that you got I don't know, a ticket for. Any of those things, like how can we like humanize this process so that people, because these people have to go back into the world, right? And these people are going back to their wife, their kids, their family, their partner, or whoever. And this kind of stress takes its toll. And yeah, I'm just glad she's doing it. We need more judges involved. We need to change some of the jargon. We need to change some of the frame and the context, involving design thinking or user experience, or some of these higher level concepts into any system to me would be a big advantage.
It's quite difficult to understand what is design thinking when you are legal advisor. It is very different way of thinking. So it took me time to, I read your article, but it took me a long time to understand.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially if you're used to seeing it in one way and in one context. I think the innovation is not just for business, right? How can we create a better society? This should not just be something that dreamers and visionaries think about. This should be something that a business such as ours thinks about, and how we can contribute to a better society. This should be something that all the systems that I mentioned earlier think about, and the people who are running these particular segments of our government should be thinking about. But it's not, and we know it's not true. There's so much fragmentation between all the different groups, and we have to figure out, well, it's all working somehow together. And so how can we improve it? Because ultimately, what is a better society? And what is a better citizenry, and what makes for a better person, a better human being? And what kind of society do we want to become? What kind of people do we want to become? And that there's a lot of influence that these systems have, and in our direct environment. And big one obviously is education. And it's there's a lot of room for improvement there, at least in the United States.
Everywhere.
That doesn't, yeah, it's everywhere. But seeing the connection and getting people to think in systems is the key. And we got too many people who think in silos, who think in their specialization. And we need somebody to connect the dots between all the different systems, and how they connect, and how they produce the cumulative aggregate result that we have. And to me, that requires a different frame of mind, a different level of thought, that hopefully we can start training. There's some judges that do this really well, that understand like how all these forces play together. And so you can see a lot more compassion from them. But then you have judges who think in terms of black and white, and you committed a crime, you do the time, and that's that. So yeah, we need more systems thinkers. And there's a great book out there too. People should read it, especially that are thinking about these more holistic measures. Thinking in Systems by Donella Edwards, I believe, is the author. Would be a good one. But there's plenty of books out there that address this in a very smart way, in a very human way. It was either me or honestly, I don't remember. I just remember that this is something that we all agreed to do, and it's something that was important to us. And it was really simple. It's just, hey, we're going to assign a copywriter who first of all understands our philosophy, right? We're going to assign a copywriter and get this done. And we did. That person coordinated with legal to make sure that they were saying the same thing, but in a very translated, very human way. And once all those little issues were worked out, it ended up being a nice touch point for us, because a lot of people, I wouldn't say a lot of people, because not a lot of people read the terms of service.
How many? You know, maybe.
I don't know offhand, but I know we got tweets. I know we got emails. I know we got mentions in social media for having a more human terms of service. And people were just, I'm sure they were thinking about how they need to do it in their own company. But there was a lot of good, positive response to it, and it's not like we were doing it for that. We were doing it because we do care about these things. We do care about giving people a better experience and improving that experience. It can always be improved, and then as a in brand, you tend to look at everything. You want to look at the entire journey, not just external for the customer, but also internal for the employee. And so all these things play. And to me, everything is like cumulative to creating the kind of brand that you want to be known as. And I think the way we're going in the future now, we want to be known as a meaningful company or a meaningful brand. And there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, but that's ultimately what we want to stand for. And we want to influence other companies and other organizations and other institutions to think this way too. It's ultimately about people and making sure that we leave people better off after interacting with us than before they came to see us or interact or experience us.
So you said you asked a copywriter to understand the culture of the company and then to rewrite.
It was really that simple. Yeah.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Great.
It took some coordination between legal, like I said, but we eventually got to a place that made sense for both of us, and it worked out well. The only difficulties really was time and commitment from the copywriter, and I mean, we didn't, like I said, we didn't think that people would actually love it and or tweet about it. But I think people just appreciated just a more clear, readable terms of service that spoke to them. No, it's something that we hope other companies adopt. No one really reads terms of service. I mean, especially if you're getting one from Facebook, right? You better read that thing closely. But yeah, like I said, I think it's an opportunity to really, it's more effort and not a whole bunch of eyeballs are going to go on it. But it's important to do something that best represents you as a person or as a company or as a, some type of entity, to make sure that, people are people and you can't expect people to understand where you're coming from, especially when you're using a lot of jargon. And I think that's where there's a lack of teachers or people who think like in a very explanatory way, in tech companies and, in any institution, really. It's like we need to pay teachers what they're worth. Really good teachers, not just, people who are just reading out of a book and giving you assignments, but people who are masterful at explaining things or, breaking things down or simplifying things. And I think there will be a shift in value for really good teachers. It's just taking longer than I thought, but we're starting to see it in the online space for courses. But this is a part of the thinking that goes behind something like this. And by the way, the person who worked, the copywriter that worked on this was a social worker as well.
Okay. So did he give his work to a lawyer first or not, to make sure there is no difference?
Yeah. So that's why I said they coordinated with legal to make sure that, you know, that there was it was a good interpretation. We'll say that this was a jargon-free way to explain what was you know, the jargon-filled version tried to explain. And so there was good coordination there, and you know, the lawyer read it and said, okay, sounds good, looks good. Yeah.
Seems easy.
Yeah, it should be easy, right? It's just really dedication and time, and you know, the will to do something like that and to bring it to life.
I wonder if, do you think a legal advisor could do it as well?
Of course,
Yeah.
as long as they understand human. You know, some people are so caught up in their specialization that they forget that who they're talking to. And again, it's just empathy in the end. I would say it's two things. It's empathy and compassion. You know, empathy is not enough in my experience. I think compassion is the next level of acting. And, you know, it's that next level of acting that I think will be, if compassion is not a word in the 2020s, it will be in the 2030s, I believe. No, I just think that I just think it's more or less about clarity and communication and making sure that we're arming people with the necessary knowledge they need to play the game. And you know, if we do our job, at least in education systems, and you know, even as within systems like the legal system, as attorneys, that we're educating people to the best of our ability, then I think that would be helpful. I think, you know, we've seen this too, right? Like we've seen people who are on death row and or in prison for a very long time, and they end up becoming their own attorney. They study law books and, you know, figure out the knowledge, and they end up becoming the best representation for themselves. And the idea is to get to that point before, you know, someone gets locked up for, you know, 20 years of their life, before they find a way to, you know, whatever, solve their case, or you know, maybe find a loophole that somebody else would take advantage of, which could be good or it could be bad. It depends on who it is. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And if we apply this concept, this framework of user experience, and, you know, for me, it would be human experience, to give it a little more heft. But if we apply this concept and we think about what is the person experiencing, then I think we could produce not just a more efficient legal system, not just a more effective legal system, but a more human legal system in the end, where people feel like they understand why they're in court, or they understand what their role is if they're supporting somebody, and you know, what their rights are, what they're capable of, rather than hiding all these things and leaving it up to people to figure it out. I think there's a lot of education that could be done there. And it might take a reframing of the entire legal system and laws in general. And I think that we're a long ways from that. That's going to be a while before, you know, people try to tackle that. But there's a lot to improve there for sure.